Yes, it's another episode of Implicit Bias. We're not eating the dogs. It's okay. We'll tell you a secret, though. Secret is we actually, here on Implicit Bias, we're coming to you live on video now. I say live on video. It's actually recorded, but it's recorded live, so it's live on video. We're doing this like ABC, CBS, NBC. They all do it. We're live, but it's recorded live, so they call it live when it's really not live. You know what we're doing. This is your Implicit Bias. I am your host, Kevon Bordelon. And yes, we are coming to you again from Mr. Lester Steakhouse down at Cypress Bayou Casino. And I got to tell you, we are expecting an absolutely outrageous night of, as we have been called, refined debauchery that is your Implicit Bias. Mr. Lester's actually opened just for us tonight. Why? So they can actually serve you better. We're recording on a Wednesday. We normally record on a Thursday. They're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. So when we recorded on Thursdays and we were here in the cigar lounge at Cypress Bayou, guess what that meant? It meant that you couldn't be here. Now you can make your reservations Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Mr. Lester Steakhouse, Louisiana's only 5-star restaurant between New Orleans and Houston. So, man, a lot. And I mean like a lot has happened since our last episode was recorded. We had an absolutely crazy debate, which we wanted to let age just a little bit before we addressed that. And after all, you know, somebody has to check the fact checkers because they certainly weren't going to do it. We've had court rulings. We've had Tim Tebow exposing text between pedophiles on social media. We've actually had another assassination attempt. P. Diddy is now in jail behind bars, so the diddler is now arrested officially. It's been an absolutely crazy week. We hope that you've gotten to taste some weekly whiskeys and maybe a stogie or two. Look, we actually started looking into all of this stuff. I mean, all of this stuff, these stories that certain media outlets who will remain nameless, ABC, CBS, NBC, NBC, Fox, MSNBC, Vox, HuffPo. Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I think I actually said that out loud. Anyway, we started to look into the problems of the world that needed solving, and a few thoughts actually entered our minds here with the crew. And a challenge was put personally in front of us. One that we can't back away from. It is, in fact, a moral imperative that we address it. So, where does that challenge come from? That challenge comes to us in the form of the divine. Many people were wronged in the last week and a half or so. Let's face it, every day people get wronged. And we became angry. Matter of fact, members of the crew in our group text actually became audibly aggressive about some of these things. And that began to eat at us. And it made us think. It made us think about deep things. Like Star Wars. You know, fear leads to hate. Hate leads to anger. Anger leads to the dark side. I only kind of jest here. It really wasn't Star Wars, which originally warned us of the dangers of anger. It actually was our very creator. Jesus talked about anger. He also talked about turning the other cheek. In other words, Jesus would tell us with all these bad people and these things that have happened that we have to forgive. Romans 12:18 tells us, do all that you can to live in peace with everyone. Dear friends, never take revenge. Leave that to the righteous anger of God. Liars, molesters, thieves, murderers, despots, fraudsters, con men, and con women. Yeah, I know, we don't want to, but for our own sake, we have to forgive them. Trust God is going to sort them out. See, our forgiveness does allow us to move past the anger. After all, Matthew 6:14, if you forgive those who sin against you, your heavenly Father will forgive you. But if you refuse to forgive others, your Father will not forgive your sins. Mine, ours, right? But words matter here. We must forgive. We must not forget. See, Jesus forgave even those who hung him on a cross. He did say, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He did not, however, say that they would be free of consequences from said actions. Big difference here. See, the thing with people who are committing the bad acts like we've seen in the last week, months, years, they don't want to be forgiven. They don't care about forgiveness. but they do care that we forget about what they've done. As a matter of fact, they are absolutely counting on it. Think about how many times the news lied to us during 2020. Think about how many times we were lied to about medical information, about the safety of food supplies, about situations at the border. It's crazy that one particular political party even has a name for the tactic. They call it the smear tactic, which is to tell a lie to the media, get them to report the lie, then cite the lie reported by the media as reason to claim that what they said was true. All of that only works if we forget. That, my whiskey-sipping friends, is what they are betting on. It's what fuels their fire. It's what allows them to continue playing their evil little game. And yes, it's flat out evil. It's one of the worst kinds of evil. It's their belief that we're only paying just enough attention because we're busy. We're busy with our lives, our families, our jobs, just living life. And while we're living life, they are trying to take it from us. So be the proverbial elephant in the room. And I don't mean the thing that sticks out, the thing that everyone can see that no one mentions. Change the definition of that. Be the one in the room who forgives, but doesn't forget. Never forget what evil people have done to us. Never forget what they've taken from us. Never forget that they are terrible people. They've all picked a side, and that side isn't ours versus D's. It's not Christians versus atheists or anybody else. No, the side they've picked, it's them versus all of us. The members of that elitist club versus the everyday people who just want to live a good, holy life. And we just want to be left alone. Well, now that we won't forget what those lying, shape-shifting, cold-blooded lizards have done, it's time to find out what happens when we don't forget. It's time they deal with us solving the problems of the world, not creating them. It's time they deal with us after we've had a couple. We'll have a couple dozen probably on this episode of Implicit Bias. It's time they deal with us. It's time they deal with your implicit bias. They'll get a running start. We'll take that leaving the starting gate right here. Stick around for more of your implicit bias. Welcome back into this week's episode of Implicit Bias. We are at Mr. Lester Steakhouse in the Cigar Lounge. And by the way, if you want to see what that looks like, you can find us on all of our socials, whether it's X, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, whether it's Facebook. You can see us. And I'm sorry for that. I am your host, Kavan Bordelon. To my left, to your right on the screen, you actually also get to see the rustic renegade. He is Caleb Morris. Caleb, it is a pleasure to have you here this week.
It is wonderful to be here on this beautiful Wednesday eve.
Yeah, we normally record on a Thursday.
I said that wrong. I'm sorry.
It's okay. We normally record on a Thursday. We air on Saturday in most of our markets. Yep. So if you're in New Orleans, if you're in Monroe, if you're in Vidalia.
Is that how that's pronounced?
Yes.
It's not Vidalia? That's the old Sammy Kershaw song.
I've heard it both ways. Sammy Kershaw was from Kaplan, so I'm not even concerned with how he pronounced it. I mean, let's be honest here. That's a whole nother conversation.
Valid, yeah.
So it's good to have you here. By the way, like I said, if you're in New Orleans, if you're in Vidalia, whatever, if you're in Monroe, please make sure you come down to Southern Louisiana. You want to grab a steak in this restaurant.
Yes.
As one of our guests would say, get a hotel room because you'll need a nap. He is Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. He is Rene Girard across the table from me here. Rene, it's a pleasure to have you. You and your banana clip shirt.
Caramel.
No,
Vidalia. Caramel.
Okay.
Same stuff.
No. Caramel is spelled different than caramel. They are spelled differently. Caramel has an extra A. Caramel is a place. Caramel is cooked sugar.
No.
Yes.
Carmel is a place.
Okay, that's fine.
That's a place.
Okay, that's fine.
Craft caramels. I grew up all my life. That's craft caramels.
And you're still illiterate. It's a whole different thing, right?
I'm a functional illegitimate.
The little chews, right? The craft
caramels.
I always thought they were like my grandmother's pocket candy.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially,
if
they don't have the wrapper on them, that's nasty.
Yeah,
that's just a little pocket lint. That's all.
That is nasty. All right, across from Rene, we call him K&B, as in Kennebra. He is Grant Galatas of William S. Nacol Jewelers. Grant, it's a pleasure to have you here. Another member of the OG crew of Implicit Bias.
Good evening, fellas. I just have to say, I didn't think it would be like 8 seconds in before we went down a rabbit hole that quickly. That was a caramel explosion. That was very nice.
You know, the worst part about that is I knew it was coming somehow. Somehow I knew it was coming. Actually, you know how I knew it was coming? I knew it was coming because I got a sneak peek at the menu. And there is a caramel stuffed apple, not a caramel stuffed apple, Renee.
Nice segue.
There
Bravo.
is a caramel stuffed apple on the menu here tonight from Chef Willie at Mr. Lester's that is, oh my goodness, looks so good. It's a deep fried cheesecake. I mean, I'm jumping straight to dessert with a caramel stuffed apple. Talk about fantastic, right?
Again, nice segue. That was masterfully done.
I appreciate that.
Didn't see that one coming.
Thank you very much. Well, no worries.
You get your first bell of the evening.
And speaking of not seeing, normally you don't get to see the Implicit Bias pledge. Is he wearing it? I can't see.
I got it. I brought it.
He's got the pledge pin on. Walker Griffon, who is better off dead. It's also his nickname. Walker, it is a pleasure to have you here, like running the whole show here at Mr. Lester's.
Pleasure to be here.
It is. It's free, so I knew you would.
Oh, I'd be here. Oh yeah.
You should have.
Most things.
And I'm going to out you here because Caleb brought shirts for everybody. And yes, I have one. Yes, I'm going to participate. Don't worry. I've actually got a plan. But you should have seen when Caleb said, "Hey, I've got shirts for everybody if you want to come get it." It was like, I don't even think the text was completed being sent through the group when Walker was like, "I'll be there. I'm in. Free stuff. I'm in."
It was so fast, my phone didn't make a noise. It was like,
it was the extended sending noise.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah, I was actually impressed at how quickly he latched on to, oh, something's free, I'll take it.
I was on my phone and I saw the text, so I just slid down and typed what I needed to type.
So you were on your phone. I sent that. You sent the text in the afternoon, so I'm assuming that means you were on the toilet.
Hey, maybe I was, maybe I wasn't.
Look, we all do it. It's nature.
Yeah, it is. It's okay. All right, so let's dive into our weekly whiskey segment. As we say, we solve the problems of the world one weekly whiskey at a time. And you probably have already seen on camera, I've got my weekly whiskey in my left hand. And man, this is one that starts off with one of our weekly whiskey partners where you can buy this bottle. This is a 9-year vertical pinhook Kentucky straight bourbon. At Grant, you said 114 proof, I believe?
Yes, 114.6.
114.6, 9-year-old age statement. I'm really curious because I've heard wonderful things about this. Our buddies in the Acadiana Bourbon Society have been all over the discussion of how good this was. My expectations for this were sky high. That being said, let's start with Renee. Renee, I'm curious as to what you thought of this because you are not normally the high proof guy. So 114 is usually, I don't want to say out of your range, but it's something you
high. That's the high part of my range. Yeah. I like 95 to 105 maybe, but we have had some great 110 plus whiskeys. I mean, when you and Caleb love those 125, 140, 200 proof things, that's way too much. This one I like. It's great. I'm not getting a lot of smell. Y'all were picking up smells on it, but that's because y'all didn't let me have a Glencairn on this one.
Nobody said you couldn't bring your glass.
Well,
Nobody.
Well, you didn't have it no notes.
You were in charge of you.
You didn't have it in the
of you.
notes.
I don't want to hear this. You were in charge of you. No one told you couldn't do that. Oh, that's right. That's why you don't like stuff over 114. You're not a grown man. I get it.
That's right. I wear a grown man shirt, though.
You do.
Oh,
you do.
Well done.
Yeah. Well,
I don't wear a Hobbit size shirt.
hey, I am the fat Hobbit, so I don't want to hear it. I resemble that remark, right? All right, so
It's
114.
Great whiskey. I love it. It doesn't have a lot of burn, which I would normally pick up on that. Very smooth. The flavors, I'm not picking up the flavors, though. I don't know why. I just, with my cigar and everything, I don't know. But, dude, this is definitely something that I can drink.
Which is probably, your third or fourth cigar of the day?
Yeah, but I hadn't had a cigar since noon, so I had like 4 this morning, and this is probably the 5th one of the day.
Okay. All right.
It's normally about a 6 to 8 cigar days.
Okay. So while we transfer microphones and we've got your thoughts on it, let's go to Walker. I'm curious as to what the Implicit Bias pledge thinks of this, because normally he's not in on the stuff as well over 110, 114, but he's starting to get there. We're making a snob out of him.
Man, this is refreshing. Or it was refreshing.
It was
refreshing.
Okay. We have to watch him.
What? No, it wasn't.
We
It
have
wasn't
to
that
watch
big of
him.
a pour.
Oh, all
It
right.
was not. Ask Caleb.
I looked at that glass compared to my glass, and I gave you the lesser of the two.
This is part of the monologue. I'm gonna pull this thread. 3 words: lying, liars, lie.
It wasn't that big of
Walker.
a pour. It really wasn't. But it was amazing. Very refreshing.
Congratulations, though.
Thank you. And then at the end, I get the caramel. The caramel.
There we go. I'm about to say, I know you went to a good school. Don't make me shame that school on this show for telling you it's caramel. Okay, Grant, I'm curious as to your thoughts.
Officially now, I guess I'm a member of the 110 plus club. I was a member of the century mark kind of whiskey, but this is, I mean, when it tastes like this and it really doesn't strike you as too strong of a proof. I mean, this is a smooth 114.6. Yeah. My goodness. I mean, just like Renee, I'm having a little trouble. When we first picked it up, I got the little scent of tobacco.
Yep. I got that as well.
Surprising, and then my favorite treat, it's like a Christmas morning, just that little bit of caramel just comes seeping through at the end and just makes you smile.
I see what you did there.
Makes you smile even when you're looking at Walker's shirt.
I see what you did there. I appreciate it. Cheers to you, sir. Nice. You can ring the bell for yourself for actually knowing how to pronounce the word caramel.
Thank you. Oh, did I get it right?
You did get it right. Yes, you did. All right. Caleb.
Someone's got a brown nose.
So Caleb,
it just flew out.
I know where we're going here, Caleb. I know that this is going to be. Do you remember?
I've got it.
Actually,
I wrote it down.
Okay, here we go. Because this is like some European swallow sitting in a hibiscus tree that happened to get a whiff of lightly salted sugar burning on a French stove. I mean, what is it? Come on.
So I get a sweet, like a sugary sweet on the nose immediately when I was smelling it, and then Renee and I were talking about it. There's a pipe tobacco he has, and I think we've agreed that it's the Bayou Morning blend that he has, and it follows right into that. And then I get a little bit of spice and then vanilla. And then, I don't know about y'all, but I'm very happy about the fact that I finally bought like what I would consider a fair amount of property. My wife and I bought 10 acres. And the summer breeze over a hayfield. That's what I can put. Not a cut hayfield, but like the summer breeze over a hayfield, that earthy smell.
Notice it can't be cut.
No,
it
uncut.
can't be cut. It's got to be uncut.
Uncut. Like
Uncut.
5 weeks after it was cut, so the grass is kind of bowing a little bit. Yeah.
Does it make you feel fine?
Summer breeze makes me feel fine.
Oh, yikes.
So that's the nose. And then on the palate, I get brown sugar. And then I get like this delicious bread pudding topping. Not bread pudding. You know that rum sauce they kind of put on top?
So you're getting the whiskey. You're getting the whiskey
rum sauce on top. I get that. Yeah. And then like the Werther's Original Chews. Because it's not. I don't want to call it caramel because it's not. It's not. It's not caramel. It's not there. It's not as rich of a flavor. So it would be like that watered down grandparent pocket candy caramel, and it is just stupendous. Like the flavor profile does not match the nose at all.
That is one of the things that I find really interesting about this, and I'm agreeing with you 100%, is that the nose is so different from what actually hits my palate. It's very unique in that aspect. I absolutely get tobacco. When I sniffed it, I went, oh my goodness. It's an almost overpowering note of tobacco, almost like it's a tobacco blend whiskey, right? Like a cigar blend whiskey, but it's not. So when you get that beautiful viscous liquid on the palate, it's oily. It's got a nice long finish for me. And I get the brown sugar. I actually do get that full caramel on the back of the palate. And it sits beautifully. This to me is one of those that, and we're going to play What Would You Pay in a minute for the What Would You Pay championship belt chain, which we actually do have here. Yeah. So we're going to play for this in a minute. This is one of those bottles that to me is so incredibly special because you get a lot of people, and look, if this is you, sorry, not sorry, you get a lot of people who are label lickers, right? They are simply chasing a label, going, oh, I got to have this, I got to have that label, I got to have that label. But you can find some things
You're talking about those people that chase ponies all day long.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And this is one of those that they might not pick up. It's not going to be a collector's cap. But when you drink it, oh my goodness, is it so much better than what you're going to get in a lot of those bottles. It's going to blow 90% of those out of the water. They're not close. This is a phenomenal, superb whiskey that I am just absolutely floored with. And I'm so glad that I already bought an extra bottle because I know that this bottle is only available at Nunu's and the Friday after this recording. So if you're on social media, you're going to get to see it. If you're in podcast, you're going to get to hear it. If you're on radio, you might have missed it because on Friday, there's going to be a bottle signing from the gentleman who runs Pinhook at Nunu's. He'll be there. So this is one where I'm like, oh, Friday, Kavan might have to end up at Nunu's just to grab myself one that's autographed because this is special.
It's gonna look really nice to have an empty bottle autographed by him. Like that's the best way I can word that.
No, what's the rule? If you have one, you have none.
Thankfully, I bought one today.
Correct, and I actually have another one. So there will be one empty and one signed.
Which Nunu's is it?
It's going to be the Nunu's in Youngsville. So thank you for clarifying that, Renee. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do this. Let's start with rating this on the Morse Whiskey rating code. Red, I wouldn't drink it even if it was free. Yellow, I would only drink it if it was free. Green, I would buy this. Or blue, I would seek this out. Grant, we're going to start with you before we then start to play What Would You Pay? So where do you put this on the Morse Whiskey rating code?
I'm sorry, I give it a blue. I was on 2 of the last 3 shows, and we had some really good Penelopes. Mm-hmm. And they were extremely good, and it was a back and forth whether it was a green or a blue. I think that votes ended up like 3-2 each time. And I expressed on the show, I said, there's a wow factor, and this one has the wow factor. It's a blue.
Yeah, this absolutely, to me, has to end up in deep blue. We'll explain that more in a minute. All right, Better Off Dead. Where do you rate this? I think we know because you don't have any left.
Gotta give it a blue.
Got to give it a blue.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
Yep.
All right, Renee, what about you?
Definite blue because, excuse me, this one's going to be on Obtainium because it's a one and done, and we've had quite a few Pinhooks. This is probably my favorite so far of the many Pinhooks we've done.
I would agree with you.
I like this whiskey.
I would agree with you. And yes, that's a great call out is that this is a one and done. You will never see this again once these bottles are gone. So Caleb?
I mean, I had to keep adding tally marks there, but I put down blue before anyone else did it. So y'all are all just copying.
And you know where I'm going.
Yeah.
This is an absolute blue. This is a unanimous blue. It will end up in deep blue, the Implicit Bias Infinity bottle, because we need to add this.
That means I can't finish the bottle.
No, it means you can't finish. Well, it means you can finish this bottle, but Nunu's is on the way back tomorrow morning. And this won't be out tomorrow morning, so you might be able to pick up another
Thankfully, sometimes it's beneficial.
All right, so let's play What Would You Pay for the What Would You Pay Championship Belt Chain. For the uninitiated, those who've never heard this game before, here's how it works. Each person is going to pick a price that they would pay for the liquid in this bottle. Whoever is closest to it wins the What Would You Pay Championship Belt Chain presented by Luxury Lemo of Lafayette. You get to clonk 2 beers and throw them into the ring when you're done. Renee, what would you pay?
I'm looking at $89.
$89. Walker, what would you pay? 9-year liquid, remember.
94.
94. Grant?
101.
101. Caleb?
The problem we have here is...
Oh, that's true. You know.
I was there and I bought a bottle. And I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember how close it was. So
let's test how good your memory is.
My wife's over there laughing right now.
Yeah, that's exactly why I said it. I was curious to see what Jackie would say about how bad your memory is.
Like it, in my opinion, this has to be a C note. Like, has to be. There is no doubt in my mind.
I will tell you what I would absolutely pay for this. I would pay $120, $130, $140, $99. That is what you would pay at Nunu's for this. This is a $99 bottle of whiskey, which means, no, you said C note. That would be $100.
Yeah, but I knew the range.
That's closer than 101.
Yeah, but I knew the range.
I'll
take it.
You'll take it. Okay,
I will
so you will
take
wear
it.
the What Would You Pay Championship Belt Chain. We will solve the problems of the world when we come back on this week's episode of Implicit Bias. Implicit Bias rolls on in hour one, and man, we are being fed like kings here at Mr. Lester Steakhouse down at Cypress Bayou Casino. If you want to see what this food looks like, find us on all of our socials, X, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And by the way, just so you know, from here on out, we are not just a radio show or an audio podcast. We are video too on all those platforms. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. And man, we need to start solving the problems of the world. But before we do, I've got to tell you about what the crew is munching on here because this just looks too good. It is a seared duck breast, a fried oyster mushroom with a blackberry vinaigrette salad. This is course one and the type of food you can get here at Mr. Lester Steakhouse at Cypress Bayou Casino. What, Renee? I know you had the first chance to taste it. You got the first bite.
I just grabbed the plate and I was like, oh, I have to have that. That food is awesome. Chef Willie just does a fantastic job.
We are going to have Chef Willie on in the next segment to tell us about this. I love what he said when he thought about taking a duck and oyster gumbo and turning it into a salad because it's a really novel idea and you get that kind of creativity here. It's fantastic. Okay, so we've got some food. It's making its way around. We're going to talk about it. But the facts are that we know what's in that salad. We know it's in that salad because the salad's right in front of us. You can see it. You can see it on camera. You hear us talk about it. You know what it tastes like because we tell you what it tastes like. And yes, you can trust us.
But we don't do it justice. You need to come and eat it.
No, you do need to come and eat it. True.
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 Looking and hearing about it,
So you know what? Maybe here's a way to think about it. Maybe you need to fact check us by coming here.
Yeah, prove us wrong.
Correct. The fact checkers need to be fact checked. And I said in the opening monologue that we needed to give the debate some time to marinate. It was plainly obvious if you subscribe to our line of thinking, which is question everything, plainly obvious that questions had been distributed to potentially one candidate before the debate and not to the other. Easily observable. What was worse, and yeah, you're going to have to, you can pass that back around. I'll grab some in a minute. What was worse was that the fact checkers weren't just fact checking one person and not the other. What was worse was that when the fact checkers fact checked, they fact checked wrong. So we had a text string going. So for those who listen to the show, you know that the crew here is kind of old school OG crew. We had a text string going, and all it took on the first fact check, the very first fact check that came out, which was someone who apparently is a sorority sister of one of the candidates. By the way, conflict of interest, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I mean, are you kidding me? But a sorority sister, please don't believe me on that one, look that one up, leaned in and made the comment, by the way, there is no state in the union where there are no restraints on abortion. That was the quote from one of the, and I'm going to use this term very loosely, moderators. It really should be given a different title, like supporters, like advocate. Yeah, advocate. I think advocate's a better word. It was almost like there was an attorney there for one particular candidate arguing against another and made the comment that, yes, there are no states. In our text string, it literally took 2 seconds of a Google search to come up with what ended up being fact-checked, to their credit, by ABC, maybe a couple days, a week later, but they did it a week later, where Martha Raddatz actually came out and said there are 9 states. That article was written where ABC News, who was hosting the debate, ABC News wrote the article in July of 2024. So we are in, help me here, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. We are in freaking September.
So I'm not the only one that has to do that?
No, you're not the only one. Right. I got to, at least I can count past one hand. Anyway.
Yeah, no, I do one hand twice.
There you go. Yeah. This article was written in July by her own organization. And yet, what does she do? She fact checks one to make it look like that person is wrong, not the other. I'm curious as to what initial thoughts were, and now that we're a week and a half past that debate, where do y'all think this is starting to settle with people like us, our listeners?
Well, I mean, when they started that, when Donald Trump actually challenged that statement, he brought up the governor of Virginia.
Yes.
who was a pediatrician, and he said that he approved post-birth abortions as a governor. And then it also came out that in Minnesota, they do the same thing. Who is Kamala's running mate?
I believe it starts with a B. Yeah. Oh no, it's Walls. I'm sorry, it's not balls, it's Walls.
It rhymes.
And,
It rhymes.
and,
Yeah, it rhymes.
and what does he do? He is the governor of Minnesota?
I believe he is.
Yeah.
The whole point here that really got under my skin was, yes, you actually had the governor of Virginia on recording saying we would birth the baby and make it comfortable till we decide what to do. It was a quote of that nature. And look, the issue is in the hands of the states, which is where it should be, which is where democracy has the greatest power, because my vote in Louisiana is worth more because it's one of 4 million, as opposed to my vote nationally, where it's one of 350 million or whatever. But the point is, don't lie.
Yeah.
How hard is it not to lie? Is it that hard? Because apparently it is.
Right. Well, I mean, you state the facts to help the person that you're trying to help. I mean, they were trying to help Kamala to get over Donald Trump, even though Donald Trump came back and stated facts that they questioned him on.
He did. Caleb, you want to chime in?
It's hard for them not to lie because that's all they know. That is it. That's all they know, and it goes against their own narrative. Because if you prove one lie wrong, it unravels everything they built the foundation upon.
Yeah. Look, I love where you went here, which is, and this is where I would go with it. If you're lying about that, what else are you lying about? How about every time you open your mouth? Grant?
The biggest fallacy so far, and you have to realize these are the same people. Joe Biden is the healthiest, most energetic man in the room. This is from the same camp. It's a very easy equation. The best analogy I heard all week was the debate was a game where the refs are bought and paid for.
South Carolina fans would argue it was like playing LSU. Right. And what I would say is, guess what? There were bad calls both ways. That's a whole nother story. But that's the difference, is that in the debate, there weren't bad calls made both ways. The bad calls were only made in one direction.
Yeah, because the refs were bought and paid for.
Which, by the way, just so you know, Grant, I've talked to the city manager. The city manager says there are no credible reports that people are eating pets.
Yes, and where,
of course, we have a police report now that says that it was there. We have people on video being arrested for it. We have people on video saying, "Hey, they're doing this to my pets." Yeah, but there are no credible reports from the city manager. That's the other part of the game that they play, and that's the other part that gets really, really annoying. Which is, okay, so you got the city manager in your pocket. Congratulations. Just because the city manager says it, now you're trying to make it sound, it's official because the city manager said. Well, the city manager might have the IQ of a freaking carrot.
Look, there has to be an easy way to prove this because unless I have my numbers incorrect, the population of the place is 60,000 people and 20,000 immigrants have been dumped into this. This is 25%, 125% increase in your population.
Again, it's not about the immigrants. It's about the lie being told to try and prop up one side of the story as opposed to the rest of it, right?
Right.
This is the big thing that aggravated me. And I was so, I hate to say thrilled, but I was glad to be, and this is the word, I was glad to be vindicated when it came out that there is an affidavit from an ABC News employee. Believe me, please, or actually, please don't. Don't believe me. Please go look this up. There is an ABC employee who put down legally under penalty of perjury that the questions were handed over beforehand and that one campaign was given assurance that the other person would be fact-checked and that their candidate would not. This is what an ABC employee is alleging. And I'm going to say all the stuff that we're seeing in the past 5 days, P. Diddler being picked up, you know, the additional assassination attempt, the potential third, which initially we're told it is, then we're told, no, it was a mistake. Now we're being told, no. I mean, Dan Bongino has said, my sources say it was real. So we don't know whether there was really a bomb planted. It was what was a rally in New York. I mean, you've got all this stuff going on. Was it all there to cover up just how crooked these people are?
Well, and that's where you go into, they're all crooked. And when you look at what's going on, they're trying to hide more than we can ever imagine. And the fact that Trump still went in there, knowing that this would probably be the foundation is built upon, knowing this would be the game they would play, he still did it. Because he wants to be out there, and he's like, look, I'll go toe-to-toe against a higher number. Back to Sun Tzu. You know your enemy. You know yourself. Victory is assured. Right? And that's all this is they think that we're too ignorant to look into things for ourselves.
Yeah, but you know what?
Look, what's so bad is that he walked right into it. You know why? Because he's turned nothing down to this point. He will gladly step up on stage and confront you face to face. But what he faced was such a scripted. It was almost
Grant.
like watching a play.
Grant,
Sir.
I grew up a middle-class kid.
Oh, my God.
I just want you to know that I worked at a McDonald's.
I counted a tally for that.
I grew up a
that
middle-class
stuff.
kid, right?
With two moms.
So,
So we called her second mom.
My mom worked hard to put us through. By the way, you grew up in Canada. You grew up upper class, not middle class. Let's be honest about how you grew up, right? Okay. I don't care that Donald Trump grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth. He has never shied away from that. I don't care how you grew up. What I care about is what you do. Don't tell me what you're going to say, right? There's that old saying that we always talk about on the show, and we're going to wrap up this segment, and it goes to this. Believe none of what they say. Believe only what they do, which will show you your implicit bias. Final segment of Hour 1 right after this. Wrapping up Hour 1 of this week's episode of Implicit Bias, and yes, I am playing the Hawaiian shirt game with Caleb and the rest of the crew here on the show. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. We have with you a great crew for this week. To my left, if you're watching on X, on YouTube, on Instagram, on Facebook, I'm trying to think of all the places where we are now. He is the Rustic Renegade. He is Caleb Morse. He is the shirt dealer. Like, he's the guy that people are meeting in the back alley for these Hawaiian shirts. That is him. He is the Rustic Renegade. Feasting across the table is Grant Galatas. He is K&B, Kennebra of William S. Day Call Jewelers. We actually do have Walker on camera. So the Implicit Bias pledge, Walker Griffon, who we will never have on camera again because, yes, he looks like that. Never again. He is with us here at Mr. Lester Steakhouse. And we also have with us Chef Willie Gaspard, the executive chef here at Cypress Bayou Casino, as well as at Mr. Lester Steakhouse. And Willie's mean. I'm just going to tell you this right away. Willie is just mean. And here's why he's mean. Because he knows that when we come to do these shows, that I'm sitting here and I got to do all this talking, and he puts that food right in front of me. That's just mean. So we started with a duck breast, fried oyster, mushroom, and blackberry vinaigrette salad. We now have in front of me, Willie, I'm going to ask you to fill it. This is a smoked boudin stuffed quail, correct?
Yes. It's set on a bed of andouille and sweet potato hash. The quail is baked in a puff pastry, and I finished it with a andouille pan gravy.
And this is an appetizer, correct?
Yes, sir.
That could feed a small army. I mean, it is a lot of food. It is beautiful, and I am yet to taste it. Renee got the first bite, and I don't think he gave it up to anybody else. I think he took it with him. Yeah, he did. He took it with him. Okay, so
it's right here.
Oh, I got to admit.
It made it to me.
I got to admit, Caleb had a really good description of how we think you come up with some of this stuff. Like, just sitting on the porch somewhere, maybe partaking of 1 or 20 weekly whiskeys and going, what can we do? How do you come up with this stuff?
I just try to think back of things that I've had and things that have happened, like things that we cook and different Louisiana items, and throw it together and make it different.
So one of the things that I love is that sitting in the only 5-star restaurant between New Orleans and Houston, you keep this very, very Louisiana-centric.
Yes. Almost everything on that plate you can get in, or it did come from Louisiana.
So you're able to source locally from
Absolutely.
Just basically the almost farm to table?
Yep. Some things, yes.
So why? Why do that?
It helps the local economy and the little guys around here. As much as I can buy locally, we buy locally.
I also think that there's ridiculous flavor in our local economy. I mean, we are known in Southern Louisiana, which, by the way, so if you're watching, we are in, so y'all know, we're in like 54 countries that we've been downloaded, which is awesome, over like 800 cities. I mean, it's nuts when you look at the stats of where we've been downloaded. So if you're not from Louisiana, know this: if you ever watch a movie, if you ever see a TV show, and they are portraying Louisiana, they are portraying either New Orleans or here, which is the Lafayette, Acadiana area.
Right.
Baton Rouge, no, unless it's football. Lake Charles, there's no culture. I'm kidding, my people in Lake Charles. North Louisiana is a little different a lot of times, but really what they are portraying is either Cajun culture or New Orleans culture.
Right.
And that's the food you get here.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely fantastic. You actually bring that alive on the plate. So how did you come up with the idea for the duck breast, fried oyster mushroom, blackberry vinaigrette salad?
I was thinking, because it's teal season.
Perfect.
I was gathering all my stuff to go teal hunting this weekend, and I thought, duck and andouille gumbo. I'm going to make a salad that's similar to duck and andouille gumbo. Not gumbo, but
right.
Yeah, but it's phenomenal.
The same items that would go in a duck and andouille gumbo, we're going to make a salad out of it. And that just popped into my head while we were having some beverages.
That was a blackberry vinaigrette, right?
Yep.
I never in my life would have thought about blackberry with duck.
Right.
But that deep, dark meat with that beautiful, succulent, it's a fruit, right?
He said suck.
Yeah. It's phenomenal, man. Like, I want to do something with blackberry and duck breast now.
It goes together.
You did such a good job with that.
Blackberry and duck goes together.
Oh, my God. Yes, it does.
Most berries and duck blend together.
Okay, so Chef, I got to ask you about the soup while I tried this quail, because the soup I actually got to taste prior to us starting this segment. Tell us about that soup.
It's just a simple corn chowder with bacon and chicken added to it. Just different.
No, that is a bacon, chicken, corn chowder.
Yes.
Correct?
Yep.
That is off the charts. Absolutely off the charts. And oh my God, this quail, like, I would burn down a small village for another one of those. It is that good. Amazing how delicious that is.
What makes the soup different, the roux we make it with bacon fat.
Oh, really?
The roux that we thicken the soup with, we use bacon
See,
grease.
you use a super meat because bacon's a super meat.
Yeah.
As the basis for your roux. Look at you.
Yep.
Look, and you know, one of the things that I love about being here at Mr. Lester's is that if we want to go out and we want to, let's say, parlay a wager, we can parlay a wager here, right? It is a fantastic place. You can smoke a cigar here in the cigar lounge. It's the only restaurant in Louisiana where you can do that. Do you know what else you can now bet on in the United States legally?
I'm so excited about this.
Grant, you raised your hand. Grant, what can you bet on? He's going to, as he grabs the microphone from Chef Willie, what can you now bet on?
This is so ripe for corruption. You can bet on the election now.
Well, you used to be able to do it. Then they outlawed it.
Yeah, that's what I loved about this article, is that it said once you do that, you open yourself up to lawsuits based on one side or the other being an illegal.
Tamper for illegal gambling.
I love. Thank you very much for sending that.
This is why, that's why it's important, because now, so if you remember, there was a favorite line. 64 lawsuits have been filed. 64 lawsuits. None have come up with anything. 64 lawsuits on the 2020 election. Do you know what almost every single one of those lawsuits, what happened with them? Anybody? The judges ruled that the people who filed it had what? There was a very legal phrase.
Immunity.
No, it was not immunity. They argued that the people who filed the lawsuits had no standing, as they were not able to directly show damages.
They had no vested interest.
No vested interest. Well, guess what? If I now bet on an outcome and I say I was denied my rightful settlement because of a fraudulent result, all that garbage about you have zero standing, take a guess where that goes. That goes right out the window.
Wait, so does that mean that the next TV here in the casino is going to have election polls with numbers and then bet on.
That I don't know.
And then
we are not speaking on
I'm
that.
speculating. And then next to that would be like Chef Willie's meal for the night, and how many people will say it's amazing?
Oh, well, unfortunately, that would just be 100% bet. Like, that'd be the biggest sucker bet in the casino because everybody knows that if Chef Willie's cooking it up, it's going to be fantastic.
So is this up for, I mean, are they going to put this to a vote, or is this something that's actually going to pass?
No, it's
passed.
passed. It's done.
It's there.
It
It's
is now.
legitimate. It's taken care of.
Yep. So I'm waiting on DraftKings to start investing in Fox like they have invested in ESPN. And start saying, hey, the odds on this particular election are 65-1. If you want to prop bet, you can prop bet the president, you can prop bet the White, you can prop bet Senate, you can prop bet the speaker, you can prop bet all these things. Yeah, there's parlays. I mean, there's
They're
all
gonna
this
have a parlay from local government all the way up to president.
Yeah, it's not
$25.
It's not on there yet. I just went check on my DraftKings. It's not on there yet, though.
Walker, you are too young and too broke to be on that app. That's all I'm saying.
No,
I mean,
maybe
the damage.
Maybe not. Maybe if I win, I'm not broke anymore.
The damage that I believe that those apps are doing is on par with other things that we can get on phones and all that stuff. Grant?
What I actually did like about this, and one aspect that they brought up, was that the odds makers for sports, when you can have a point spread and you can have money on a game and you end up losing by a half a point, I go back to Jimmy the Greek. These people are almost just sick, savant intuitive with determining this. So you can almost base an election just based on these guys' predictions of it, if there's actual money on it.
Here's the other big reason that I love this.
Very interesting.
Because we all know that polls are rigged. We all know that polls are all dependent upon, well, I oversampled this particular category versus that category. And you get polls on both sides. None of them are right. They've never been right. And then at the end, they go, oh, well, we said it was in the margin of error, blah, 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 blah. Here's the best part of this. You're going to see polls that come out that say this is close. And then you're going to find out that 90% of the American public has voted or has bet on one candidate. Right? So essentially, the betting money will become the polls. Which takes, and this is going down a deep rabbit hole. The deep rabbit hole is this, which is, how do you fix an election? The very first thing you have to do is you have to make it plausible that the candidate you're going to rig it for will win. Which means, how do you do that? You utilize polls. Well, now, if you can't utilize polls to make it plausible that a candidate will win, when that candidate who wins, that nobody bet on, what does everyone do? They all go, oh, no, I didn't bet on that person. And then they start talking to their buddy. They go, I didn't bet on that person. And then they call Walker, who bets on everything. And Walker's like, I didn't bet on that person. And now all of a sudden, everybody's starting to figure out the game that's been played. This is a true vision or sight into the looking glass that has been needed for a long time, because this, you want to give transparency, let people put their money where their mouth is.
Well, it goes into making your vote count.
You know what else counts? The finger from the corner. Walker giving us that, no, not that finger. I know where your minds are. The 1 minute finger from Walker, which means stick around, because if you're not here for hour two, you're going to want to find us on all of our socials, whether it's X, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, whether it's wherever you get your podcast. But trust me, hour two is always more fun. So stick around for that on Implicit Bias. Hour two of Implicit Bias, moving on. And man, let me tell you, hour two is always more fun than hour one. Why? Because we are in our second weekly whiskey, as if we didn't engage in the first to almost the full extent that the bottle could handle. Let me introduce you to the crew that we've got here at Mr. Lester Steakhouse at Cypress Bayou Casino. An absolutely fantastic restaurant. Matter of fact, the only 5-star restaurant between New Orleans and Houston. You want a steak? You want it here. PETA actually approves of the slaughterhouse where they source their meat. That's not a joke. I know you're probably out there laughing. It's not a joke. You can also get fantastic pours at fantastic prices. So before we dive into what we are sampling here in hour two as our second weekly whiskey, which, by the way, we have a third, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Let's start across the room. He is Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. He is Rene Girard of Piper's Haven. Rene, you seem to be enjoying yourself here tonight with your banana clip shirt.
Well, this is my room.
Your room.
It's my room.
Your
here.
room. You own it?
You know, I have. Well,
You,
I got.
you
I
bought
got,
it? You paid for it?
Well, kind of, sort of.
No, really? Did you? No, I don't know.
Kinda,
about all
sorta.
that. Yeah, I'm pretty
But-
sure Mr. Lester owns it.
Well,
who
he
actually was a
does-
real human being.
He does own, but he's my friend. He's
your friend.
He allows me to come here. He allows me to smoke cigars. He allows me to drink good whiskey and eat Chef Willie's food.
And Chef Willie's food is fantastic.
No, it's beyond fantastic.
I mean, can't disagree.
You hear us talk about how good it is.
We don't do it justice.
No,
We don't.
You need to come here. You need to call, make a reservation, have a good night of food and libations. But I'm going to tell you right now,
I know what's coming.
while you're doing it, you better make a reservation for a hotel room, which are very reasonable, because after all of this treatment, you're going to need a nap.
So, Renee, real quick, what are you smoking over there? Is that something that's available here at Mr. Lester's, or do you have like a cigar of the month that you would recommend you could come get here at Mr. Lester's Steakhouse? Because I know some of your cigars are here.
Yes, this one's not available here because I smoke them all at the shop. You can come to my shop.
Greedy mother.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm
you are.
I'm
It's
kinda
okay.
like that. But you know, they do have a cigar that's Caleb's favorite over here.
Oh,
The JFR Lunatic,
We know.
which is like redonkulous.
yeah, it is.
You know,
I will make it to the bottom of that cigar one day.
dude, just throw it away and buy another one.
That's what Renee wants.
Yeah,
Buy it from him.
Mr. Lester wants you to do that too.
Yeah, they do.
Yes,
Yep.
he does.
Yep.
It's an awesome cigar. I mean, it's an 8x80, which is Jihugis. I mean, it's crazy.
So what's also crazy is that we can actually sit in the restaurant and smoke these cigars.
Oh, it's
You
the
can
only
do
place
this
you can do that.
in the state of Louisiana,
Yeah.
right? Caleb, you seem to be enjoying yours.
This is AI.
Yeah.
No,
You know-
AI. The stuff that AI makes is usually pretty. So anyway,
Touche.
all right, we have Grant Galatas. He is K&B from Kennebra here on the show with William S. Nacall Jewelers, the provider of Deep Blue, the Implicit Bias Infinity Bottle, which our last weekly whiskey, well, it was on this show. The New News 9-year vertical from Pinhook, that bourbon, that's going in there. This Four Gate's also going in there. But Grant, I'm curious as to how you're enjoying the evening so far.
I'm going to have to concur with what Renee said. When you think of cigar lounge, there's not too many places you can go and sit and sip and smoke a stogie like this. And when you think of cigar, you think of this man seated to my left. So when he says he is home right here, I don't think we're not going to peel him out of that chair.
You couldn't.
We're just not.
You couldn't forklift him out of that chair.
That's correct. Look, I'm definitely part of the store that's a second hour sponsor, but I have to acquiesce to this gentleman over here and say that when we get here, he's like the godfather of this establishment.
So one of the
really
things
is.
that I do love about this establishment, and this is one of the things that I will be transparent with our listeners, because I like to let you know that, look, I'm just the same guy. If you meet me in public, I'm really no different than what happens here. But it's this. It's that I love me some Rat Pack. I love me some Sinatra. I love me some Dean Martin and some Sammy Davis. I love them all. And I a lot of times believe that I was just born in the wrong era, because I should have been sitting in the sands in 1958 doing that whole thing in the early 1960s. This is the closest you're going to get. This is as close as you will get to that Rat Pack experience, is come and sit here and enjoy something at Mr. Lester's.
I've got the world on a string,
Yep.
sitting on a rainbow.
Yes, you do. Don't sing, because you're a jeweler.
Hey,
Anyway.
I didn't think that was too bad. I object.
All right. He is the Implicit Bias Pledge. We'll put him on camera for a hot second and then take him off. He is Walker Griffon. Better Off Dead. What do you think so far? I mean, this is your first time running the show by yourself here at Mr. Lester's.
I'm having a blast.
Having fun?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Did you get another drink? Because I know you were
Yes,
looking at
yes.
menus and all this stuff.
No, I
and-
did. I think I got the 4-gate, which we all got poured. So
So what do you think of this 4-gate? I'm curious.
really good. I enjoy it.
Really good?
Smooth.
Yeah, great
Doesn't really-
descriptors.
Doesn't really.
You got a lot of adjectives in English class, didn't you?
Yeah. Doesn't really burn that much. I don't know what the proof is, but I think it's really smooth and just.
So hold on. We'll tell him in a minute, Caleb, because he.
high?
Oh, all right, Caleb. By all, and you said this during the break. We've said this before about this 4-gate. By every single measure, you should hate this. You don't like anything finished. You don't like port barrels. You don't like sherry cask finish. You don't like any of it. And this has all of it.
When you look at it on paper, I should hate this. It's port, it's sherry, it's cognac, and I'm like, oh, that's so much stuff. They're trying too hard. And then you taste it, and you're like, well, they tried just right. It is just phenomenal. It comes out so good. It's so approachable. And I think I'm going to add 10 on there. Is this a 120?
No.
No?
Nope, it's not 120. Nope, not 120. So how about this? Let me start here. This 4-gate is a blue.
Oh, always.
A blue from the crew. A blue from the crew. Yes.
Every
the
time
crew,
we've had it, it just
the
goes.
crew says this is a unanimous blue. This is the highest rating we can give a whiskey. Chef Willie has authorized me, by the power vested in me in the state of Mr. Lester Steakhouse.
Yep.
I declare this a $15 pour. Right?
God, I
a
hate it.
$15 pour.
Whoa. Stop.
Yes, no, that's actually
$15 a pour.
$15
So
for a
that's-
pour of this.
That's the problem with all this, right? When we come here,
Yeah.
honesty exists in this building, right? So an honest $15 pour, the lunatic, 80 ring gauge, 8 inches. Honesty, right? Yeah. Honesty. So when your wife holds that in her hand,
lying.
Yeah.
it's either familiar or it's not.
You know.
So, right, sweetheart?
But here's the deal. What would you say, Walker, if I told you that the proof on this is 124.7?
No.
So it's pretty dangerous.
124.7 on this.
No way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because I was being coy.
Yeah.
I know this is knocking on 125, and
Yep.
it is phenomenal.
All day, every day.
Oh, my God, it's so good.
It definitely does not drink like a 125. I would
Give it
I
10
would have put
seconds and we'll hear that on your voice.
Give it 3 glasses.
I
Give
would
it a third
have put it
glass.
more at a 110 maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe.
I mean, it's very smooth because I always get a burn at above 115 or so.
No.
Not this way.
This is smooth. This is refined. This is deep. This is this is deep thoughts with implicit bias and whiskey. That's what this is.
You know
It's
what this
fantastic.
is? This is deep blue right here.
Oh no, it is.
Yeah.
It is absolutely. We already have some of this in Deep Blue at the Top Secret podcast.
You got
like
to
how
put
you
some
use-
more.
So you know.
I like how you use refine because that's what this is. This is the Rat Pack at its pinnacle.
Yep.
Right? This is Sinatra. This is Dean Martin. This is Sammy Davis. This is just so well done. This is peak American bourbon.
This is
That's what this
outstanding.
is.
Grant?
Is the high proof hidden by the port finish?
No.
No,
Look,
because
so
look,
you can.
this doesn't hit you in your mouth like a 125 proof.
So we've absolutely had on this show 125, 130, 135. We've been close to 140 that you would never know. It's all in just how the whiskey happens to come out of the barrel and where it's proofed at. So if you've got a master distiller who really knows what they're doing, they're going to start just dropping down the proof a bit at a time. And when they get to, because it might come out of the cask at and this is a blend, right? This is a blend, so it's a little different. You might get some at 130, 135. You might get some at 150, 160 when they come out of the cask. It all depends on what the master distiller, whether they know what they're doing, how to proof it down and get it at that right flavor point for everything they have. This as a blend, this is a master blender. This is someone who really knows their stuff. And when they started putting it together, they found that right mixture. And the interesting thing about 4-gate is this particular 4-gate, you're not going to get it again. This is the Bluegrass Trilogy 3. So they blended these barrels, and now all of a sudden they're maybe trying to chase this again. You're never going to find this again, which is why it's so beautiful and why whiskey is one of those things that enjoy it while you can because you're not going to get it again.
But I've always found the higher proofs like that very hard to hide the fact that it is a higher proof.
No.
Once it hits your gullet.
When it's done right.
If it's done right, if it's done right, it's like the perfect rifle, the perfect sports car, the perfect jewelry, the perfect cigar. It just hits on all 8 cylinders.
But
And
that's hard to achieve.
it's very hard.
Right.
And that's why like a port, a sherry, a cognac, normally if they try to hide it, you'll get more of those flavors. You'll get more of that sweetness out of the especially all of those are very sweet. So they'll draw more flavors out when this is just so masterfully blended.
Renee?
And that coming from Caleb who hates finished
Yes.
whiskeys.
Hate
I
it.
mean, he hates anything. He's
Mikey.
give it. Oh yeah, give it to Mikey.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is finished in what? Four different
Yep.
casks, and Caleb likes this.
When I
That's
first
just-
read about
that
it,
just tells you that you should rush here to get this before it goes away.
when I first read about it, Kavan and I were talking, and I'm like, no. Like I saw it on paper, and I'm like, no, I'm gonna hate it. It's gonna be horrible. And then he poured me a glass. I didn't know what was in it, and I was like, what? I'm not gonna say what the blank is this.
Wow.
I didn't raise my hand.
You censored
I
yourself.
appreciate that.
You,
Yeah,
censored,
yeah.
you censored yourself.
Because
I'm impressed.
I was like, this is amazing.
Did you really have to go there?
And you didn't raise your hand.
Yeah. He knew it was
He
coming.
never does.
No,
you
he
raise it
never
after
does.
the fact.
You should have known. This is just like they do such a good job.
They
Yeah,
do.
dude,
It is just
this
phenomenal.
whiskey is, in your words, it's redonkulous.
It is.
I thought you were going to cuss.
No.
That's
Okay.
what I was expecting.
I won't
So,
do that.
so speaking of redonkulous, you know,
Renee.
we do our best to solve the problems of the world one weekly whiskey at a time here. And I'm trying to bring up this story because this maybe is solving some of the problems of the world to see if I can, and it did this to me. There is a recent court ruling in Pennsylvania. And this is a big one that solves a lot of the problems of the world. So let's see. DC Drano. If you follow DC Drano at all on X, pretty big day. Americans can now bet. We talked about that, right? But if you go back and also look, Pennsylvania Supreme Court rules undated and misdated mail-in ballots will not be counted.
Have you seen the backlash to this?
I don't care about the
Well, no,
backlash to
so-
this
so I
because
want you
the
to-
reality is in the very first election in 2020, when, all of a sudden, remember what you have to believe that 2020 wasn't rigged. You have to believe that there was a water leak in Georgia that only got announced, that it started at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that only got announced at 11 o'clock at night when Arizona reported 1% of their votes. All of a sudden, that water leak at Georgia that happened in the afternoon made them stop counting, which they didn't stop counting because we have video. And then you had, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania all go, well, we're going to stop counting too. And then they all kept counting. And then in Pennsylvania, votes just kept coming in until things changed. And then at 3 o'clock in the morning, when they were all supposed to not be counting, somehow there was a huge injection of votes that changed the outcome of the election, right? You have to believe all that.
So here is where it's really important to read the backlash. The backlash, they're saying, well, if an individual can't fill out a federal form correctly, that doesn't mean their vote can't be counted. Renee, if you don't fill out your application to renew your tobacco license correctly,
Denied.
Kavan, if you go to the DMV
on.
and you don't fill out your form correctly at the DMV,
Let's take this a step back. If I need federal assistance, can I fill out, and I don't fill out the form correctly?
it'll be denied. If you're a
gonna be
veteran
denied,
and you're
right?
applying for benefits
And
and
here's
your
the-
dates don't match up, it's denied.
Here's the bigger thing, and this is the insult to me. Do you really want to insinuate that people are that stupid that they can't get an ID? Do you really want to insinuate that a certain group of people are so dumb? Oh, they can't vote when they're supposed to vote or and fill out everything and sign their name correctly. I mean, this is what this comes down to. It comes down to a signature. It comes down to something so simple, and it's such an insult. It is so angering. And this is where I have to forgive, right? Because, man, I find it hard to forgive people who are so condescending to other human beings. You're not that special that you get to look down your nose at everybody else and go, I know what's better for you than you do.
So on the backlash with this, one of the things they're doing is the date isn't specified. The date is always specified.
Always.
When you sign a document, what date do you put on it?
The day you signed it.
The day you said.
So they claimed, a lawyer that I saw about this claimed that 2/3 of people put the voting date, the date of the actual election, not the date they signed it. 2/3. Well, when I cross-reference that, 100% wrong. 100% wrong.
You know what else is 100% wrong? The finger from Walker. We got Crockett, we got Tubby, we got the whole 9 yards here in Implicit Bias. We'll be back in hour 2 as we have more fun than we did in hour 1. Stick around for more Implicit Bias. smoked tomato steamed mussels on Implicit Bias at Mr. Lester Steakhouse down at Cypress Bayou Casino. Oh my goodness. Come here. Trust me, you want to try this. I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. Welcome into what we call 2-2. Hour 2, segment 2 of this week's episode. As I said, I'm your host. We've got a great crew here for you. We've got Renee Girard of Piper's Haven, Louisiana's only certified master tobacconist. We've got the Rustic Renegade. He is Caleb Morse. He is eating all of the mussels before the plate comes to me. That's okay, because Chef Willie always takes care of everybody. We've got Grant Galatas of William S. Nacall Jewelers, a.k.a. K&B, as in Kennebra. And, of course, for the one lone time you will see him on camera. Well, no, actually, I think we'll put him on camera. Have we put him on camera twice, Aaron? Have we put him on camera more than twice? Oh, no. He does not get that much airtime.
Thank you, Aaron.
No,
Shout out Aaron
in the corner. He does not get that much airtime. That is Walker Griffon. He is the Implicit Bias pledge. And let me tell you, hour 2, as I said, is always more fun, and this is why. Because we are now into our second weekly whiskey, which is a $15 pour of Foregate, the Bluegrass Series Trilogy 3. I mean, just an absolutely fantastic pour. This food looks ridiculous. And we have all right, Caleb, go ahead. Tell us about the mussels. Not your muscles, because I know you want to talk about yourself.
Look, my guns are getting a workout holding this plate. I'll tell you that right now.
Tell us about Chef Willie's mussels, because we know how much you like Chef Willie's mussels.
Who ever thought about smoking a tomato? Like, okay, Grant, don't look at me like that.
I've never smoked a tomato.
That was different. You were younger then.
Tomatoes don't burn very well, so they don't smoke very well.
Oh, my God.
But those mussels are awesome.
This is just stupendous. I didn't get a chance to try the bread. The bread looks amazing with it because it's a lot to hold.
The bread is good too.
But
so one of the things
Willie just he outdid himself.
One of the things with mussels is there's always a broth.
Yep.
And you take that bread, you soak it in that broth, and oh my goodness, just how fantastic it is. The smell when Chef Willie brought these out.
Well, and the problem you run into is like a lot of mussels when you get them, because they continue to cook in the broth and everything else, right? So they get real chewy, real rubbery.
No.
It's perfect.
No.
Oh my God, it's perfect.
They're a perfect here.
Yeah, and you can see from our food cam, which we probably need to just make sure that everybody knows the food cam. That's the plate. This is the kind of food you get when you come here. Absolutely fantastic. And by the way, if you're listening on radio and you're like, well, you're on radio, idiot, I can't see it. How about this? Go to Facebook, go to X, go to Instagram, go to YouTube. We're on all of them. You can find this on all of those platforms. And if it's not there yet, trust me, it's coming soon, because now we are not just audio, we are video too here on Implicit Bias. So we've got plenty to talk about. And that food, this is the first entree of the night from Chef Willie. The next one is going to be a lamb chop. We're going to talk about that in a minute. What, Renee?
Well, I just want to expound on this. Looking at it on Facebook, YouTube, and all that, no. Come here. You need to come here, because we can talk about it, you can look at it, but you can't experience it unless you come here.
Renee, do we need to put you on a podium in front of the White House, put a bunch of red lights and a couple of Marines behind you? You can tell people what to do.
Yes.
All right, Grant, you wanted to chime in? Uh-oh.
Growing up like we did in New Orleans, my experience with mussels is that they were always just a little tougher.
Yeah.
A little tougher chew. And I don't know what Chef Willie did with this, but
he cooked them right.
Thank you. And
you're welcome.
That's hard to say, because I've tasted them before, especially at lakefront restaurants. I've had them, but that is just such a beautiful flavor.
Well, we don't typically do mussels in Louisiana. We do oysters because we're coastal. But then again, we have that whole thing. And I know we're in a month with R right now, but it's still like 145 billion degrees outside. That whole thing with, month with R for oysters because it's cool. No. What Chef Willie has done is he gets the freshest seafood. He does Louisiana a lot. And then he does stuff like this, which is exceptional international fare that is off the charts. Like, I can't wait to taste one of these oysters. But we've got some stories. We got to continue to solve the problems of the world with this particular weekly whiskey in front of us. And this to me is something that cannot go undiscussed. Did I just create a word there? Undiscussed? Nah, whatever. So we now have a guaranteed second attempt on one candidate's life, which is more impromptu interviews than the other candidate has done. Just saying. But we have 2 attempts on a presidential candidate's life. But oh my goodness, can we talk about the second alleged shooter? Because this is a deep, deep rabbit hole. So I'm going to start here. Renee, I saw you grab the mic. I need you to hold on for a minute because this is going to take a second. So here's what I want you to know. Here's what essentially we know from basic investigation. Go look this up on X. Go look this up anywhere. You're going to find these things. So number 1, the second attempted shooter lived in North Carolina for a while and was broke, and then moved to the most expensive state in the country for cost of living, which is Hawaii. So you got a guy who can't afford to live in North Carolina who moves to Hawaii, who then starts a business that essentially puts like one post up on the internet and then does nothing. And at that point begins to fly himself back and forth to Ukraine to support Ukrainian fighters. And at one point apparently is offering $1,200 per person who will sign up to fight for Ukraine. So the guy has no money. He's flying himself to Ukraine. He's offering people money to fight for Ukraine. And he's recruiting fighters for Ukraine. But he's got no money. I'm just saying. Then ends up in pictures with U.S. lawmakers in Washington, D.C. lobbying for what? More money for Ukraine. Okay. Then all of a sudden, somehow ends up after having what? More than 40 felonies, one of which was for possession of weapons of mass destruction. Please don't believe me. Please don't believe me on this. Please go look this up. Because if you don't believe me, we might actually learn something together. But one of his felony convictions is for weapons of mass destruction, is allowed to purchase not an AK-47. There's a differential here. It's an SKS, which is a different weapon. Somehow gets this weapon that has obliterated serial numbers, which is one of the official charges from the DOJ. And somehow, 12 hours before a presidential candidate is on a golf course, decides, I'm going to make my way from apparently North Carolina to Hawaii to Ukraine to D.C., back to or wherever he came from, to a golf course in Florida and sat there for 12 hours before he was going to potentially take pot shots because he had a camera at a presidential candidate. I don't know about you. I don't know about anybody here in the top secret podcast layer south, which is Mr. Lester Steakhouse. Don't BS a BSer and tell me that this guy who's got no money, who's got no credentials, who's got nothing behind him, is all of a sudden just gonna end up in the right place. Is it possible? Sure. It's also possible that I could win the lottery while riding a unicorn on a rainbow bridge to meet a freaking leprechaun who's got a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's possible. Is it probable? Not even close. What this screams to me is that this guy had sponsorship from someone or some entity inside of a government somewhere around the world. Caleb, you want to chime in?
So when you look at purchasing a firearm, one of the questions that I ask you is, have you ever been convicted of a felony?
First question.
Well, not first.
Well, okay, not first.
Not first, but it's on there. Yes or no. And my assumption is this person checked no, which is falsifying a government document, which is something similar to like Hunter Biden, where he was charged with this.
And pleaded guilty, evidently.
And pled guilty.
I apologize. He pleaded guilty to tax evasion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So then it goes
difference.
through, and if you don't come back as a denial on your NICS, your National Instant Criminal Check Services, or if it goes past your waiting period, and there's no response, you can get your firearm. The obliterated serial number, in my guess, right, this is a guess, happened after the fact because maybe he wanted to hide the fact where the firearm came from or anything else.
Oh, we got 1 minute? What, Walker?
Let's go long because
Okay.
I actually want to chime in after
Okay,
Renee.
we'll go long. That's fine. Let's go long.
So
I like going long.
My assumption is that he tried to hide a firearm. Now, the United States, the receiver, whatever the receiver's definition is of that firearm, is what the serial number that counts is. Now, your SKS, many other firearms do, but your SKS, your bolt has a serial number, your barrel has a serial number, your receiver has a serial number, and then for the purists, your stock has a serial number as well as your. I'm not even going to call it a magazine because it's not a removable magazine; it's an internal magazine.
Internal.
So
Yes.
the question becomes which serial number was obliterated?
Correct. Now, U.S. definition would be the receiver itself, which is the metal part, the lower, which houses the trigger mechanism. That would be the one that he obliterated. Doesn't mean we can't track it. So there is further down this rabbit hole to go.
This is purely circumstantial evidence. This guy was just sitting there
Minding his own business.
with his SKS and his GoPro and for 12 hours.
Okay.
That nobody knew that Trump was going to be playing golf at that golf course because it wasn't on his schedule. He just so happened to show up.
Yep. All right, Walker. You want to better off dead. What are your thoughts?
Like Renee said, no one knew. It was a last-minute tee time that Trump just magically, last-minute tee time went golf. Dan Bongino.
There were three people allegedly who knew.
Dan Bongino touched on it and said there is a rat in the Secret
There's
Service.
gotta be.
There's got to be.
There's gotta
no
be.
way.
It's got to
But
happen.
also, I saw a video on X. There, the buses that Kamala brings in for a rally because
This is a deep rabbit hole.
people don't go to that she just buses in. He was in the video. Of
Okay,
one.
so I don't know if that's
are
him.
these
Ew.
the white buses that
Yes.
have no markings and no?
That's a whole nother discussion. But to Walker's point, was it him that was actually at? What we know is this: we know that both him and Crooks, and this is a deep rabbit hole. We're going to ask you to go down this on your own. Him and Crooks, the alleged first shooter on Trump, both donated money to Act Blue. Start there. They both were in videos that were paid for by a company called BlackRock. And here's the really crazy part. So there is a guy, last name Urich, who was alleged to be the first shooter, but it was a mistaken identity right out of the beginning. Allegedly. Urich has disappeared. There's an article that was written on August 30th. Please don't believe me. Go look this up. Urich Routh Crooks. Search it. It'll come up. This article alleges on August 30th that Crooks, the alleged first shooter at Trump, was sending money to Routh, the second shooter, which now all of a sudden starts connecting the first attempt on his life with the second attempt on his life, which makes it really, really interesting moving forward.
Well, and let's not stop there because if you think it stops at 1 and 2,
What about 3?
what about 3?
What? Yeah, but
What about
Crooks had no money.
Oh, that
Where
you
did
know
that-
of. He
Well,
had three overseas accounts that were never hacked. Okay, we got to take a break. We got to come back. We've got 2 more segments. I don't want those 2 segments to be too short. This is a deep rabbit hole. Please dig down this rabbit hole on your own and know this one thing. Whatever the media is telling you, they're not telling you everything. Let your implicit bias tell you everything. When we come back, we got to talk Diddy when we come back, because that might just connect everything. The penultimate segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias, that is the second to last segment for the uninitiated, because you know what? It used to be the Sam Stokes rest in peace segment, but he's dead to us now because he just left. And we got Walker, which is awesome, except for the fact that we don't want to put him on camera because we don't want you to see that. Anyway, diving in, I'm your host, Kevon Bordelon. We have a great crew here for you. Grant Galatas has given way to Chef Willie Gaspard of Mr. Lester Steakhouse, the executive chef here, which I want to stab him with my fork and take him home and hold him hostage. Like literally, I want to put him in a well and look at him and say, it puts the lotion on its skin and it cooks. That's what I want, right? Because what he does is just that good. What, Renee?
Why do you want to stab him with a fork?
Because
this guy feeds us.
Because that way I get to keep him. I want him for myself.
No, you hurt him.
I want him for myself.
Well,
right?
you just take him. Don't stab him with a fork. I mean, this man feeds us awesome food.
He does feed us awesome food. We're going to talk about what he's fed us in just a minute. Caleb?
And see, the problem with that is I don't want him to put lotion on his skin. I'm not that weird. I'm like, it puts the food in the oven.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Like, I could
can
stop
live with
at that. I could do that. It puts the food in the oven.
Yeah, I can live with that. It puts the food in the oven. I like that. That's a good twist. I like that. All right, so Chef Willie, before we get into did P. Diddy did it, let's talk about the 2 entrees you have rolled out. First of all, it was the charred tomatoes, smoked tomato mussels.
Yes, sir.
What was the inspiration for that?
Sitting on the patio.
Okay, we're gonna have to explain this at some point.
No,
that's not a good explanation.
We need to have outtakes. So,
too
whiskey.
much. We'll call it too much whiskey. Sitting on the patio, too much whiskey. Decided to smoke a tomato, and that's not the only thing that got smoked. I'm just saying.
So, obviously, the mussels don't come from Louisiana. Those are Prince Edward Island mussels.
They were beautiful, by the way.
Oh my!
Absolutely.
They're to my left.
A lot of people don't necessarily realize that seafood today is a little bit different than it used to be, because it used to be you only ate seafood when you could see the coast. Today, because of really, really big shipping companies that can do things within 24 hours. So first of all, love everybody out there. I love my shrimpers out there. Just so you know, there's no such thing as a never frozen shrimp, because when they come out of the water, they go straight into the hull of the boat, which has what in it, Chef?
Ice and
Which
salt.
does what to the shrimp?
Freezes
It freezes it, right? It's frozen right out of the water. Everything is frozen right out of the water. But the ability to get seafood that literally was caught less than 24 hours ago,
absolutely.
it happens, and that's what you're sourcing, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, the inspiration for the mussels, where I talked to my guys at Louisiana Seafood Exchange on Tuesday. I said, what's the best thing you got right now? He said, man, you need to see these mussels. So I said, send them to me. That's what I'm cooking. And I came up with smoked tomato, and that was it.
And they're absolutely incredible. And the broth, by the way, I mentioned you're supposed to dip the bread in the broth. Do it. It's just worth it.
Right.
So are you going to have that on the menu this weekend?
No, I couldn't get enough. But
So you did that just for us?
just for you.
Oh, man, now, Chef, Walker, well done. Well done, Walker. The pledge is learning. All right.
Are you crying? There's no crying in dinner.
It can be when Chef Willie's cooking.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So that was one of the things. But you do specials like that all the time. You
Yes,
basically find
absolutely.
out what's the best that you got, and you do all
Yep.
these specials.
Absolutely. We
So-
actually have some sea bass this weekend. That's really nice.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's what-
Sea bass done well is exceptional.
Absolutely.
Okay. So what are we looking at now? Because this is the second entree that is ridiculous.
Lamb is my by far favorite meat to eat.
Ring that bell next to you, because I agree. If you can get good lamb,
Absolutely.
it is an exceptional red meat, just delicious beyond
I
belief.
prefer lamb over beef any day.
Mm-hmm.
And the orzo pasta jambalaya, I've been doing that for years. I've won a lot of money at competitions with that.
And
That
you can
allow-
sample
that
it by
allows-
coming here.
That allows me to sit on the patio and
There you go.
so. And then I took a crawfish and tasso and made a little relish out of it to put on there, because lamb goes great with something sweet, and finished it off with something from Louisiana, a little crawfish and tasso.
It is. I've always been a fan of taking a French rack, slicing it into double chops, doing like a chili, garlic, thyme type glaze, right? Little olive oil. But the sweetness really sets it off. It's not something I've ever done before. And oh my goodness, Chef, just absolutely delicious. So I got to ask, these are the types of specials that you do basically every weekend?
Yep. We do something like that every weekend. Usually we do something seafood. Every once in a while we do a beef dish. or lamb dish. This weekend we're doing a beef dish. We're doing a classic beef Wellington this weekend.
Okay, I've had your beef Wellington here because you've done it for us when we do things like Implicit Birthday, or actually when we do Winter Implicit Dinner or Summer Supper. Yep. You've done them before. Off the charts good. Yep. Just delicious. That puff pastry is cooked so perfectly. Mm-hmm. So, Chef, look, I appreciate what you've cooked. And you've got dessert coming for us as well, correct?
Yep. Absolutely.
You did a deep fried cheesecake with a caramel stuffed apple, correct?
Deep fried cheesecake stuffed caramel apple.
Okay, so wait. The caramel apple is stuffed with cheesecake and then the whole thing's deep fried? What are we talking about here?
So the apple is hollowed out, filled with cream cheese, cheesecake. I baked it, and then I cooled it, breaded it with cornflakes, and fried it. Then I dipped it in caramel sauce.
Oh my God.
Oh dear Lord. That sounds almost as bad as what Tim Tebow was talking about on social media with what people were doing. Like, it sounds sinful.
You just ruined so much. Ruined so much.
It sounds sinful. Does it not sound sinful?
That is more than sinful.
Yeah, no, what Tim Tebow was talking about was terrible. I had to go there because I had to kind of broach that topic.
Oh, that's not a good segue.
That might be the worst segue we've had of the show. Yeah.
That's worse than my stuff. Like,
okay, so for those who don't know, one of the reasons we do this show is because we believe that there are things that should be enjoyed in life and there are things that are absolutely wrong in life. Things that should be enjoyed are like the food here at Mr. Lester's. Things that are wrong, go look up Tim Tebow on social media, and those things are wrong. Just flat out wrong. And you got people who are okay with this.
They're more than okay. They seek it out and they desire it. That is where it hurts my stomach. It hurts my soul. These people were texting about what they wanted to do to innocent children.
And I'm not going to go into a ton of detail. The only detail I'm going to give is that one person said, this child is getting too old. They're approaching the age of 9.
When I heard that, oh my God. I remember my children at 9 years old and just the joy for life they had and the innocent attitude and the future that was in front of them. And when I hear people talking about what they did to these children, it's an abomination.
There's only one way to cure this, and we know this. I'm not going to say that, but there's only one way to cure it. Renee, you want to chime in real quick?
All I can say is that's a bunch of sick mother.
Yeah, Walker missed it. He missed it. It's okay. So Renee, look, I agree. You're absolutely right. Which brings us to P. Diddler. Right? That absolutely bridges the gap to the person that has been called out by multiple people. I mean, 50 Cent called him out? You had a lot of people calling out P. Diddy. You had a lot of people saying way before, God, what's the guy's name that got arrested for the murder of Tupac a couple months ago, maybe 6 months ago? You had somebody arrested for the murder of Tupac and basically Keefe D. Yeah.
Keefe D.
Okay, give yourself a win there, Walker. I'm impressed that you remembered Keefe D. Yes, it was Keefe D who was arrested for the murder of Tupac, which, by the way, take a guess who they're saying set that up. P. Diddy. And now you've got P. Diddy under arrest, held without bail. And guess what? That may bring down the house when we talk about the cards that are constructed, the houses that are built, and the final segment of this week's episode of Implicit Bias, which will bring about P. Diddy, the Tay-Tay, the endorsement, and the whole 9 yards when we come back. Oh, holy heck. What Chef Willie has rolled out here in the Top Secret Podcast Lair South is just absurd. If you want to see it, find us on YouTube, find us on X, find us on Facebook, find us on Instagram. This is Implicit Bias. I am your host, Kavan Bordelon, and that is a cheesecake stuffed, deep fried caramel apple. Yeah, go ahead, Renee. What is it?
Heck is not the word that I would use.
I am aware, and that's okay. All right, so as we dive into this last course here at the only 5-star restaurant between New Orleans and Houston, we have got to tie in the last segment of this show, which is the arrest of P. Diddy. And we were hypothesizing during the last break I am going to straight up tell you, I believe P. Diddy is, or P. Diddler is the linchpin in all of this actually falling down. And here's why. So when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, and this is one of the things that comes into nomenclature, which is, number one, when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, not many people knew exactly who Jeffrey Epstein was. That's thing number one. Thing number two is this, is that Megyn Kelly, who tells us that our favorite person who didn't kill himself actually isn't dead, and we're going to hear from him. Megyn Kelly, the former Fox News host, now says this guy's alive, and we're going to hear from him in the next few months. There's a lot of theory around him still being alive, him not being the body that was wheeled out of the New York prison that P. Diddy is now in, by the way. There's a lot to this conversation. Now, I'm not saying that Kelly's correct. I'm not saying that any of this is right. What I'm saying is we just don't know. But here's what we do know. What we do know is if Jeffrey Epstein was known by the crew here, a lot of us knew who Jeffrey Epstein was, but how many people did you know that understood the depth of the Epstein scandal? A lot, Renee, or just a few?
No, I mean, there was a lot of people that were accused of being in the black book. There was a lot of people that were questionable whether they went to the island or...
That's not what I'm asking. What I'm asking is, how many people that you knew were like, oh, I know exactly what's going on with the Epstein thing? Very few.
Oh, nobody knows what was going on.
Nobody knew,
because
right?
it's all theories and everything else, and you know.
But here's the deal: how many people know what's going on with Diddy? How many people? How many people who don't pay attention to politics know what's happening with Diddy? Oh no, a lot of people know with Diddy. A lot of people. Renee, I mean, they're not your age.
Diddy.
I'm just saying.
No,
they're not your age.
I'm old.
Yeah,
but Diddy's always been involved in a lot of things. I mean, he was a mogul. I mean, he had clothing. He had all kinds of music. He had his fingers were in everything.
Everything. So here's why I believe that this is the card that brings everything down. So what we now know about Diddy is that the FBI and the Justice Department, when they did the press conference, actually came out and said, here's what he's charged with. He is charged with the Racketeering Influence Corrupt Organization Act, RICO. That is a charge he has been charged with. He has been charged with trafficking individuals for the purpose of sex. He has been charged with utilizing paid sex workers to obtain videos of people who might not have done things. So this is where this gets real interesting. Let's start looking at who Diddy was connected to. Was Diddy connected to Tay-Tay? Oh, he absolutely is.
In the music industry.
In the music industry, he is. And everybody knows he's kind of the guy who's got all the dirt on everybody in music. Have y'all noticed that 50 Cent has just disappeared for a while?
Yeah.
We haven't seen 50 Cent in a while. 50 Cent came out a long time ago and said, what Diddy knows is going to get him in trouble. What Diddy has done on video and what he's got is going to get him in trouble. And that looks ridiculous.
I mean, the videos have come out with Diddy slapping women and
there's all kinds of stuff, right?
Dude, that's
so
just horrible.
So now let's put all of this together, because to be fair, there is a video of Diddy having a conversation about his birthday party where he says Donald Trump stopped by and he had the inspiration to bust a move. He was asked, well, what about Donald Trump? He said, I'm not talking anymore about that. But there's plenty of video of him with Kamala Harris where she has a tweet thanking him. There's plenty of video of Diddy with Tay-Tay, who just endorsed who?
Kamala
Harris. So let's start thinking about this. So first of all, I find it hysterical that the endorsement has now backfired. And here's why. Number one, if you thought that that Taylor Swift was going to convince someone who was not a fan of hers to vote the way she wants, you're delusional. No one was going to be like, oh, well, I like her, so I might vote this way. If you were voting for Harris and you were a Taylor Swift fan, you were already voting for Harris. But we are now seeing, and there are multiple reports, please don't believe me, that the endorsement is now hurting Harris, because all of a sudden the people who don't support that are like, oh no, that's where I draw the line. You are a bad singer who can't dance and look like a freaking wet lasagna noodle. If you were to take off all your clothes, I am not voting the way you want because you know jack squat about politics.
Wait, if you got to depend on Taylor Swift to convince you on who to vote for,
get ready to ring the bell, Grant.
Dude, you don't need a vote at all. If you're that clueless, oh my God, please make your own decision.
Well, yeah, but the problem we have is we have a lot of youth that they just follow the river, right? And
think.
Well, we want them to think, and if they ever start paying attention, they'll realize that all of us can say this: 90% of Taylor Swift songs are about choosing the wrong person. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to take you a step farther. And 90% of her fans are people who aren't of the age to vote.
They're not.
90% of her fans are under the age of 18.
Well, and the
think
goal,
about that.
The goal we have is like, as a good parent, you should teach your child to think for themselves. And a child that thinks for themselves, the moment that this artist, whoever the artist is,
doesn't matter,
right? They're going to say, well, hold on. 2 + 2 = 4, not 37. Let me do some backpedaling, some research, and dig into this. And when they realize that this artist who's up here talking about the right person to choose, talking about the right decision to make, well, you've been wrong your whole career. Why should I listen to your political views, your emotional views, and your social beliefs now?
And look what she did to her current boyfriend. He went from being an NFL stud, and he's like doing nothing now.
Well,
I mean, he's straight up trash.
Have you seen the pictures of him before they dated?
Yes,
now?
Yes. It tells you everything you need to know. If you want to be washed down that rabbit hole, have fun. Walker, the finger.
I know. I wanted to chime.
This is such a fun episode. Look, here's the deal. You never know. Find us on our socials, because we might just keep going for a little while, for a couple seconds. We might do a little more from Mr. Lester Steakhouse. We might keep giving you a little more of your implicit bias. If you can't find us on our socials, find us next week on your radio station. But Facebook, X, YouTube, Insta, we're there for you, for your implicit bias. Have a great week. We'll see you in 7.